This is PCO, the French Canadian Frankenstein, and you're listening to Count It Out.
Listening to Count It Out with Mike and Tyler.
Well, we are live, pals, and welcome to another edition of the Bill Apter Seal of Approve Count It Out with Mike and Tyler. My name is Tyler, and I am joined once again, as always, by the one and only Mojito Mike. Mike, what's going on, man?
We're doing it once again, man. We're on a roll. This is like, I don't know, 4 or 5 shows. We're hitting lists. We're doing our thing. We're having fun. I really feel I don't know, I feel it again. I feel happy. The show's on a big roll. We're seeing our numbers count up, climb up. We're seeing people hit those subscribe buttons. Thank you so much. If you guys want, you can go right back down. This is the first time I've been able to say this in like 6 months, but you can go to countout7.com for all your counted out needs. We're back and better than ever, baby. So yeah, I'm having a good day, man. How are you?
We're Eric Bischoff. We're back and better than ever.
Do
you have a knack for making things better? I'm doing all right.
I do.
I'm doing all right. I had such an emotional roller coaster of a weekend, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
I had my highs, I had my lows. My highs would be Barry Wrestling was a lot of fun, the mystery show.
Yeah.
And if you do have IWTV, you can check out the Counted Out with Mike and Tyler Battle Royal.
I love that you got that in there.
That was one of the mysteries for the mystery show. And then the lowest of lows, I've got to vent.
Here we go.
I got to vent for a minute here.
Spit it out.
I'd like to think, for the most part, I'm a pretty okay person. Like, I'm a piece of shit, but like I'm pretty nice. And
you're pretty okay, yeah.
I'm okay, and I did something, I thought I did something very nice this year. I opened up my fantasy football league that I'm in to yourself and to my fiance Victoria.
Two people who are just learning football and have never played fantasy ever.
Correct. And
so two easy wins for you.
Well, you would think, but so you took advantage of my kindness a couple weeks ago by beating me in fantasy football, and I played my lovely fiance in fantasy football this week, and not only did she beat me, but she decimated me.
Yeah,
it was a massacre. And now I'm so torn on this because, well, number one, fuck you both for being mean to me. It's my only 2 losses of the season so far to you two,
which is really funny.
But it's I love my fiance. And I'm happy to admit that I will let her run my show. That's cool with me. I'm fine with it. But now she's running my show in fantasy football. That was my thing. And now she's my boss there too now. And I just don't like it. I don't like it one bit. So I had a little bit of a low there, but
I find it very funny that Victoria, to my knowledge, I believe she only has 2 wins in her belt.
Yes.
And both the people she's beaten are on this screen right now.
Yeah, she did. She did beat both of us.
She beat me day one.
The part that really annoys me too is I don't even help her that much. And when I say that much, I don't ever be like, hey, you need to do this. Ever. I've never told her a player to pick up. I've never told her, do this or put this person in or take this person out. She'll ask me questions. And I told her, you can ask me questions and I will answer them honestly. It's the same thing I told you when you started.
Yeah.
I will never tell you what to do because I'm in the league as well. And it's not fair to the rest of the people in the league. But if you ask me a question, much like I ask people questions in the league, the amount of times that I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about making this trade. What do you think? And I'll send it to whoever in the league.
Sure.
And you talk it over. And so she beat me on her own, which really fucking stings a little bit more.
Well, I realized something about myself this week. Because I got my just like Victoria, I also got my second win this week. So just like Victoria, I'm 2-3, where you are 3-2, which leads me to believe that in order for me to win, I need 2 things. I need you to lose because I only win when you lose, And unfortunately for both of us, I seem to only win when the Bengals lose.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how
Oh,
I am in my other league too. But let's
rough week for our Bengals.
for those
Uh,
but
oof.
I don't want to talk about it. For those I can't. I get
If
upset.
my name is Evan McPherson, I'm going full Ray Finkel this week.
Well, I mean, it wasn't his fault. Like
That's what I mean. I'm going Ray Finkel. Fucking laces out, man.
it wasn't
I'm
even
I'm gonna track down and kill that ball holder.
it wasn't even laces out. He just dropped the snap. Like he didn't have a chance to like either way.
Yeah.
For those of us that do care about that, this puts me at seventh place in the league with a record of 3-2. You have moved up to 11th place out of the 14
Mm-hmm.
people in our league at a two
That
and
makes
three
us
record.
7-11, baby.
And I've got a massive bye week this week where I'm losing my best players, so it
Oh,
could be an L for me. I don't know. We'll see. But that's our football talk for the week. We will
that's
update
it.
you again next week for another edition of Counted Out with Mike and Tyler's Fantasy
And you know what?
Football.
The cool thing about football is there's a lot of really big men in football. Yeah, lot of large gentlemen in football.
I see what you did there.
And you see what I did there? Because that's what we're talking about here today, ladies and gentlemen. My list today is going to be counting down the greatest big men, the greatest giants in the history of wrestling. And I'm surprised it took us over 4 years to get here.
Yeah, it's just one of those lists that I feel like we did, like, but we never did.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we must have done it because it seems so easy. It seems so simple. I think we avoided it for years because it's not an easy list.
No, I didn't want to do it.
But it
But
was a fun list for me. It was a really fun list. I like lists for this, like lists like this, because I can sit on the bus and read and do research and think and think and think while during my lunch break and stuff like that at work. I don't have to sit there and watch matches. It's not, that those are the lists that are very time consuming when you have to watch a match and watch a match and watch a match.
well, yeah, I
Those
don't know
take
if you
time.
noticed a trend in my list, but there are not a lot of lists that I do where if I don't either already have all the matches memorized in my head or
Yeah,
I don't have time. I don't have
I
that
know.
time
I
to
hear you. I started two match lists like we talked a couple weeks ago. I was going to do that No Mercy list. I started doing that list, and then I just ran out of time. I don't have time for all those matches. You
well,
know?
you also like to take on these ginormous tasks where you give yourself not enough time at all.
Yeah.
And yeah, but before we get into talking about the topics of the week, I would
Hmm.
also be very happy if you guys could head over and to the Barry Wrestling YouTube page and check out Rush Hour, which airs every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. This week is a very special look at the feud between the man they call El Diablo, Gabriel Fuerza, and Reverso.
And you know what? Here's what I'm going to do because Barry Wrestling is so near and dear to our hearts, and because our very own TCO, our very own Tyler, is a member of the Barry Wrestling roster. If you would, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go this afternoon, and while I'm doing my daily edits to countitout7.com, we got a list of links down there. You can find all our pages, all our links to everywhere you can listen to the podcast. It's all right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one more to the bottom, and that's going to go straight to the Barry Wrestling YouTube page, so you can watch Rush Hour every single Tuesday.
Yeah, very good. That's a show that I put a lot of work into myself and Mike Jeffries. He does a lot of the editing work on that. Well, he does all the editing work on that, and I have my little segment and I've written a lot of the show, and it's something I'm very proud of. And the feedback's been very good to it so far. So if you got an extra hour in your week, head over and give it a little click. Let me know what you think.
And while we're finishing up our housekeeping here, before we go on to the rest of the show, I have one very important question for you, Tyler. What are you doing on Sunday, October the 20th?
I'm very busy that day.
Me too.
Hanging out with you.
Yeah. It is time for the annual WrestleFest convention in Mississauga, Ontario. And for the first time ever, Count It Out will be there. We have a booth at the WrestleFest convention this year, and we couldn't be more excited. That convention is going to be huge. There's a there's cosplay contests. There's I believe
From
like promo contests. You can buy merch, tons and tons of merch. Kelly will be there.
Mm-hmm.
Our good friend Jimmy Corderas will be there.
Mm-hmm.
The Stars of Destiny Wrestling will be there. It's going to be huge. It's in Mississauga, Ontario, October the 20th. You got to be there. It's between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. That's only 5 hours. That sounds like, oh, I have lots of time. No, 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 no. There's so much to do in 5 hours. You better get there at 11 o'clock. Come see the counted out table. Hang out with us. We might have some surprises. Who knows? Might give a couple things away. We might do a live show. We might walk around a bit. We might go. I don't want to be tied down to a table for 5 hours. Maybe we're going to get up and do some stuff. You never know what's going to happen with Counted Out when we're live. So come check us out at WrestleFest.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. It's going to be a great time. I'm excited to reconnect and say hi to Jimmy Corderas, but I'm more excited to talk to everybody, all the fans out there, just wrestling fans, come by, talk a little bit of wrestling, support Count It Out, leave us a little something, something so we can keep making the show better and better,
Exactly,
and
man.
better and better. And man, Kelly, that's a big get. I'm excited to say hello to her. I've never met her before.
Absolutely. No.
So yeah, that's gonna be a lot of fun. That will be on October the 20th. So
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks away from now.
Yeah, like 2
Two,
weeks away.
two
Yeah.
weeks away. I
Yeah.
there's so many important dates. I'm
No, I
getting
know.
I'm
Man.
getting married in 3 weeks as
Oh my
well. My
God.
my legal ceremony is the
Three
week.
weeks?
I'm getting my legal wedding ceremony
Oh,
before,
okay.
and then we fly off for the
Okay. Okay.
destination. So
Gotcha.
3 weeks left of having these fingers bared, brother. Unless I get beat at fantasy football again, then we don't have to
No.
might have to talk
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, but you don't have to worry about her beating you anymore. So
Well, I can't put
she
yes. You know what? It's a good thing because like if you and her beat me
can
again,
you
I
imagine she beat you the week of your
I would probably have to I don't know, I'd be upset. I mean if you and her were to
you'd be
beat
all boo boo face at the altar.
like I almost had to cancel Count It Out when you beat me, and then I almost had to cancel my wedding when she beat me. I'm a very sore loser. Fantasy football. Uh, I've killed Mike.
Holy fuck, that's funny, man.
I almost lost three things that I love in this life. My podcast, my fantasy football, and my fiance. That's tough times.
Tough times. That's
Well,
very
let's
funny.
let's talk a little wrestling. We had WWE Bad Blood this weekend.
Yeah, we
I
did.
I have not got to watch a lot of the show. I started watching the Hell in a Cell match, and then I
Yeah.
got pulled away, unfortunately. So I will have to finish at it another time. So I will not be able to give my opinion on the whole match itself. That being said, lots of people raving about this match, a lot of
Hmm.
people calling it match of the year.
Hmm.
Um, I've got a couple key points I want to talk about in it, but I want to hear your thoughts on it first.
I did watch the match in full. I got to watch bits and pieces of Bad Blood, but I watched this match in its entirety. And I do have a strong opinion on this match. Um, there are people calling it the best match of the year. There are people calling it this and that. I'm going to be flat out, and I have a very strong opinion that this match would alter at least three lists if I was making them, because this match has to be on my top seven Hell in the Cell list. This match has to be on my top seven uh, Bad Blood list. This match has to be on my top seven CM Punk in WWE list. That's how much I love this list.
Awesome.
And to top it all off, I think this is my match of the year.
Yeah, eh?
This match was phenomenal. Everybody knows the most important thing to me. Like I've said this 1,000 times on this show. When we're talking about a match, long before the so-called work rate comes involved, I want to know that there's going to be psychology and storytelling in this match. CM Punk, I've I've said my things about him in the past. He's not always my favorite guy, not always my favorite wrestler, but goddamn, is he a psychologist? And I'll give him that. I'll always give him that. The man can tell a story. And I don't think I've ever given Drew McIntyre enough credit on that level, because he's really good as well. And everything that they've done since January till now in this CM Punk Drew McIntyre feud has been gold.
Yeah.
All of it. It's all been fantastic.
Hands down, it's the feud of the year.
Without there's that, and then there's number two, as far as I'm concerned. It's fantastic. And this match, I don't know if this was the blow off. I think it probably was.
100% it was. There's nothing left to
Um,
do.
if this is the way they're going to end that, they ended it perfectly. You say you haven't watched it, so you haven't watched the whole thing, so I apologize for spoilers here, but I
I
gotta,
mean, it's been long enough.
yeah, I gotta talk about some of my favorite parts here from a psychology standpoint. This is very much near the end, but there's a part, I don't know if you read about this or not. There's a part where Drew McIntyre grabs this bag, this
Mhm.
like felt bag out, and you assume it's going to be thumbtacks, right? Because that's the trope. That's what everybody does. You have the thumbtacks in the bag, and you're like, "Oh, we haven't seen thumbtacks in the Hell in a Cell in 15 years. This is going to be awesome." And then he pours those bracelet beads all over Punk's head. And number one, that spot to me is pure genius because
100% it is.
that's what this feud has been about, right? But then they took it just a little farther, and you think that it's going to be him humiliating Punk, but then Punk that takes that humiliation to Punk up, if you would, and it leads into the finish of the match. You know, him shoving the beads into Drew McIntyre's mouth. He's already got that chain from the stairs wrapped around his knees, and he throws McIntyre on his shoulders, goes for the GTS. Not only does he have a mouthful of beads, he hits his face right on the chains of the knee, and he's out. One of the best finishes I've seen in a long time. The commentators did such a great job in this. Michael Cole, give that man his flowers. He's one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time, and he really proved his worth in this match here. I can't say enough. It's cool to see blood back in the Hell in the Cell. I'll say that much. It doesn't need to be in every Hell in the Cell match, like
No.
everybody seems to think, but it does work in some matches, and it definitely worked in this match. Thank you, Triple H, for taking away the red cell. That thing was an eyesore. I never liked it. It was hard to watch.
Mhm.
To have the original cell back was fantastic. I know you have a couple opinions on what you've seen, and I know you have a topic point that's going to break off this. So why don't you take the reins here?
Yeah, the first thing I want to say is just how effective. I'm not a person who's against bleeding in wrestling,
Mhm.
uh, when it's done meaningfully.
Exactly.
And I do think that that's one thing that I wish AEW would scale back on a little bit. I don't have a problem that a lot of their matches have blood in it, and whatever, teach their own. It's not like I'm like, oh, here's more blood, like but I just feel like because there is so much of it, it loses its impact a little bit.
Agreed.
Um,
I
eh,
mean, and I felt like that back in the incredibly hailed Attitude Era when it became a thing of every main event and
yeah,
every pay per view you had to have blood.
absolutely.
You
WCW
know,
was bad for it as well. They were all bad for it.
yeah,
Um,
there is such thing as too much.
That being said, because it has been so long since we've seen intentional blood in the WWE, obviously that's going to take this match from here and bring it up and elevate it another level
Agreed.
immediately,
Yeah.
just because it's something so different. Like that's a holy shit factor, right?
Mhm.
The one spot I'm hearing a lot of people on the internet, there was a spot with a toolbox
Yes.
where Punk swung the toolbox back and cracked her in the head, and I
Yeah.
think as a shoot busted him open.
I'm not 100% sure it was the bust open was a shoot. Um, he had definitely had enough time off camera to blade. So I'm not
Yeah, but I
100% sure
like
about that.
looking at the cut was at the very top of his head. Like that's not a
Yeah.
place that you would blade normally, right? You blade on your forehead. Um, to me, from what I've read, and again, it's just what I've read. I don't know the actual truth, and I won't
Hmm.
claim to, but it does
No.
sound like that the blood was hard way instead of a blade job.
Now, whether it was or wasn't doesn't make a difference to me. The fact of the matter is there was an unprotected shot to the head.
Hmm.
Whether it makes you bleed or not doesn't make a difference to me.
No, no, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that this
No, I
headshot
know
resulted in blood. Like
exactly.
it caused it, which is
But even if it
not good.
hadn't, I still don't like unprotected headshots or unprotected shots of the head.
Yeah.
That toolbox came into play about 4 or 5 more times, but Drew put his hands up every single time.
Yeah, I think that shot
That one,
was
that one time, the hands weren't up.
Well, I think that that was either mistimed or it could have been a spur of the moment spot. I don't know. I don't know what they had planned. That being
Most likely.
that being said, you know, a lot of the AEW fans are getting all up in arms. Well, how come nobody's chastising WWE for that?
Hmm. Hmm.
And I don't agree with any unprotected chair shot or unprotected object shot to the head in general. I don't care if
Neither
it's a
do I.
garbage can. I don't care if it's a trash can lid. I don't care if it's like we don't need to see it anymore. The difference, I will say, however, is that the unprotected chair shots that we see in AEW are planned and designed, and like that's it's supposed to be there. I don't know. I would assume that Drew probably was wanting to put his hand up. I haven't seen enough of it to comment 100%. That being
Yeah.
said, if
Did you see the spot though?
I haven't seen
Okay.
all of I've seen like a quick little clip of it, not enough angles to see if it was intentional, if it was
All right.
whatever. But I do know that when AEW does it, it's very blatantly planned, and I don't like that. I don't know how blatantly planned this was, or if this was an accident or a mistime. Either way, there's no spot for a headshot. I'm not defending
No,
WWE here,
neither am I.
but I need AEW fans to chill out because like there's no excuse for having a guy handcuffed and taking a shot to the head.
Well, well,
Like
that's it. There is
it's
a
a very
big
different.
difference here. Now, with that said, playing devil's advocate for the first time ever on the AEW side, I don't like to do this, but I get it to the point of if you're a fan of something and people are always complaining about the thing you hate, and then you're like, well, they just did that, and you're not saying shit. I get it. That'd be annoying to me too. I
Mhm.
wouldn't like that either. So I would do the same thing. But you know what? Instead of being like, well, don't yell at us, yell at them, take the route of it shouldn't be good for anybody.
Absolutely.
If you do like it, if you stand by it and you do find nothing wrong in unprotected headshots, then again, don't complain to be like, okay, well, Drew and Punk just did a spot I like. Don't bitch. Don't stop complaining about everything.
So
I I don't like the unprotected headshots. Doesn't matter who is doing it.
I just pulled the spot up and I'm watching it on a loop right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Is that on?
I I do. If you want my honest opinion, I do think it was intentional. You and I'm not going to call the wrestlers out because that's not what we're here for. But you and I were at an indie show once together. We were sitting ringside, and the exact same spot was done where the babyface was in the ring holding over, and the heel was outside, and he had a chair, and he swung behind him and cracked the guy in the head. Now, you'd think that doing that, it's not a full baseball swing like The Rock would do. So you're thinking, oh, maybe it's safer. Well, that man came and talked to you and I later that day, and he was severely concussed. It, it doesn't matter how hard or not hard you're getting hit in the head. There's always a chance of concussions when you're taking that shot,
100%.
especially from a steel chair, because there's no give there.
So after watching the clip, yes, I do think that that was a planned spot. It looked like they were trying to pay homage to Brett and Austin from WrestleMania 13, maybe.
Sure.
So is that on Drew for not getting his hands up? Is that on Punk for the timing? Like,
I think it's, I,
do you think that the original plan was like I want to put my hand up? Do you think the timing was just off on it? You don't think
no,
so?
I don't think
If
so.
every other shot had the
I,
hand up?
I think it was a let's not ask for permission. Let's ask for forgiveness.
And I mean, if that's the case, I don't agree with it at all.
Neither do I.
If it was
Because
if it was an
and
accident, I get it.
if the rumors are true, Punk's taking a break anyways. So Punk doesn't give a shit. Punk's gonna go away for a bit, and by the time he gets back, the
Mm,
heat's gone.
I
Um,
wouldn't say that they wouldn't give a shit.
and
I
then
honestly think it could have just been a mistimed thing. In all honesty,
no,
that's
what
the
I mean
vibes I
is
got.
what I mean is if there is going to be heat, Punk doesn't care if there's going to be heat because Punk's gone for a bit. By the time he gets back, the heat's gone.
So that's my next question. What's next for, first of all, do you think that Punk should have gone over?
So I knew Punk went over before I watched the match,
Hmm.
but I also read that Punk was probably taking time off. My first thought was, well, if he's taking time off, put Drew over. Like that's so dumb. Then I watched the match and I changed my opinion. Because of the way the match went, because of the story they told, it only made sense for Punk to go over.
Punk had to go over. To
Punk
me,
had to go over.
there was no question in my mind about it. Like your heel needs to get a comeuppance,
Now,
especially with that personal of a matter, and like you can't have Punk lose. It just
what's next for McIntyre? I don't know. Hopefully it's an upward trajectory. Like, where do you go after such a high profile feud like that?
well, the thing is both of these guys came out looking better after this feud,
I mean, of course they do.
which is the
They're
goal, right?
they're
So
two
now,
they're two of the best in the world right now. Drew, I I'm almost starting to hate this word because it's so overused, but I'm going to use it anyways. Drew is probably the most underrated wrestler in the world right now. I don't think anybody understands how good he is.
I don't know if he's underrated or not. I think people get it.
You
Like,
think so?
look at the year he's had. He won the
But
world.
you're 100%. But then you go and you have talks. You sit by the water cooler and talk about the greatest. Does Drew's name come up enough? I don't know that it does.
Yeah, maybe you could be onto something there. I think if he is maybe slightly underrated, but I do think that people know.
Hmm.
His social media game is strong, his promos are strong. Like Drew's an all-around package guy. You have a really unique situation with Drew right now too, where because he is so elevated after this program, that you can go one of two ways with him. You can either put him into a bigger program to try to elevate him a little bit more, like in the title picture,
Yeah,
or you can put him with somebody else and try to elevate that somebody else up to Drew's level as well.
agreed.
And
I don't know who could that possibly be at this point. Just what brand is he on again? He's on Raw, right?
he's on Raw. I mean, you could have him circle back with Damian Priest. I think that would be really good for Priest once
That's not a
once he's done this Judgment Day stuff.
yeah, that's not a bad idea.
I think Priest really could use it with Drew. I think,
Yeah, because what else is Damien going to do, right? So
and it's fresh.
that's not a bad
They
idea.
haven't really done too much together.
Yeah.
And there's a story there with Drew. You took my belt at WrestleMania.
Hmm. Yeah, I like
So
that. That's good.
I think that's where I go. Where do you go if you're Punk? What do you do with Punk?
Well, they're going to put Punk off on the shelf for a couple months. Let him rest up. What month are we in now? We're in October. He'll be back for the Royal Rumble. I don't think people are going to like this idea, but I might give him the Rumble.
I think that's a great way to go.
Bring him back a few weeks before the Rumble. Get him pumped up. I don't want him returning and surprising in the Rumble. Nothing like that. I want him coming back at the end of December, early January. You know, I know exactly when you bring him back. The very first Netflix episode.
Yeah.
That's exactly when you bring him back.
Well,
That's a huge thing
but
to
do you
start
want to
off
bring him
Netflix.
do you want to bring him back the same night that you're bringing John Cena back, or do you bring them back in the same segment maybe?
What a fucking way to start if you're going to feud them at all. What a way to start that. And even that could be a long build, right? It doesn't mean you have to do it at WrestleMania or Royal Rumble. It doesn't matter. That could be a SummerSlam match for all I
Well,
care,
I
and
mean,
start it on that. What a way to start that feud.
you don't even need to have that be a feud. It's Royal Rumble time. Cena could come out.
To have
This is I think Cena has to open the Netflix show.
to
And
have the two of them both come out and put their names into the Royal Rumble hat on the same night. That's fucking perfect. That's
that's what
genius.
I'm thinking. Have
Yeah.
Cena come out. This is the start of my retirement year. And the first thing I want to do is
Okay.
put my name into the Royal Rumble. And
So there's
then
one of two ways. Then you can put Punk. You're giving one of two things to Punk at the Royal Rumble. Either he wins it, or he's the man that eliminates John Cena.
well, I think that depends on what you want to do with Cena at
Well,
WrestleMania.
that's it, right?
Because I honestly wouldn't have a problem with Cena winning the Royal Rumble either.
And I wouldn't have a problem with Cena and Punk at WrestleMania.
I wouldn't have a problem with that either.
There's so many things to do right now.
Everyone's always like Punk Seth, Punk Seth, Punk Seth. I
I
don't.
I was kind of thinking Punk Cody.
I would love Punk Cody.
Yeah,
I think Punk Gunter would be uh better in my opinion. I like the idea of
I
Punk Gunter. I
I,
think they'd
I
have a
like the
better.
idea of Punk
I
Gunter.
think they
Yeah,
would have a better match. In
yeah.
all honesty, and I would rather see Cody and Randy.
Well, yes.
I just think that there's a lot to tell there. Speaking of Cody, let's talk about the heel turn of Kevin Owens.
Oh, oh man. Anybody who's saying that we're not getting a different product, anybody saying that things haven't changed under the Triple H era, isn't watching WWE right now.
Do you know that they didn't even film that themselves?
This is what I'm talking about.
Like,
The
that's
fact that
crazy.
they relied on the predictability and ability of their fan base to run an angle. Yes,
Not
this is
just an
amazing
not
stuff.
just an angle too. This is a humongous angle.
Yes.
And this is exactly what I was hoping for because we need to get Cody away from the bloodline.
Agreed.
It's
Yeah,
time. I don't.
it's time. Roman has it now. Roman can get in there. Roman doesn't need Cody anymore, especially now with Jimmy's return. There's so many more stories to be told. What's Jay gonna do? There's so many other things to be done. There's still other Bloodline members who haven't even appeared in WWE yet. Bloodline
Oh,
will be fine. It doesn't need Cody in that story anymore. Let Cody do something else. Cody and KO, love it.
yeah, and I think we're at a point where Survivor Series is coming.
Mm,
Notoriously known for war games.
yeah,
We have four members of the bloodline. This current bloodline,
yeah, yeah.
Solo, God, and Jacob Fatu.
Hmm.
You have Roman and Jimmy back together. Well,
Hmm.
there's two other people of that original bloodline.
Sammy and Jay. Yeah,
Yeah, and
I love
I think that the story, and I've said this for months, that the story of re-putting together that group
it. Hmm.
is going to be phenomenal.
And
And now you have The Rock
to
back.
to top, well, that's it. To top it all off, you can put somebody on each side. You got The Rock on one side and the Wise Man on the other. Bring back Paul Heyman, and up until right before Survivor Series, you can play the game of whose side is The Rock on.
Well, I mean, I
You
love it
know,
right now because we don't know. Was the Rock out there to scold the new bloodline? Was he out there
exactly,
to fight Roman? Was he out there for Cody again?
exactly.
And you have that.
Speaking of which, love that spot. I don't know if you saw that when he was. Did you see the spot? He was looking at the truck and had a big picture of Dusty on it.
Yeah, I did see that.
It's like, love
Love
you,
you, hate your
hate your
son.
son.
Yeah, that was
Good
funny.
stuff.
I love the final boss, Rock. I
I
love
love it.
him.
I
This
love
is
it. But man, I forgot how. So even in the '90s, I wasn't like I wasn't a rock guy. Okay,
neither. I've never been a Rock guy.
like
I've always
like
liked the Rock. Don't get
I
me
was
wrong.
I was a Steve Austin guy, or I
I
was a
was a,
DX
I was a
guy.
DX
You
guy. Yeah.
know, so I remember I was always annoyed by The Rock. So I'm like, okay, how many times can you say your name in one sentence? The Rock says, The Rock says, The Rock says. And then it just became part of the vernacular. So it stopped annoying me after the years, right? But now it started annoying me again because now it's the final boss does this and the final boss does that. I'm like, I forgot how
I
freaking annoying this is.
this is
But I love it.
probably
I love it.
probably my favorite version of The Rock. This is the most important The Rock has ever felt
This
to me as a wrestling fan.
this is what Hollywood Rock should have been.
No, I disagree.
The,
Hollywood
the,
Rock was perfect for what it needed to be at that
I
time
don't know.
period. The world was not ready for the final boss in the early 2000s
Man, this
When
is
Hollywood Rock was a thing. Hollywood Rock was incredible. This is the evolution of the Rock, and he feels like a final boss though.
100% he does.
Like at first he didn't. Like during the WrestleMania build, I was like, I don't know, like Roman feels like the bigger deal to me. And just watching him come out and the new music that they do and the
Yeah.
lightning, like, no, this guy feels like the final
He,
boss.
he's because he's the biggest deal. Like there's no more bigger deal right now than The Rock, and nobody feels like a bigger deal than The Rock.
So if we're just off the top of our head fantasy booking WrestleMania right now,
Yeah,
we got, I would say, Rock and Roman
it's
has to
Rock
be,
Roman. And
right?
I know a few months ago you were kind of not on that page with me because I said Rock Roman, you said Rock Cody.
Rock Cody has to happen at
We're
some point.
we're I don't think it needs to be Mania though.
Well,
We're
I think they've done a good job of shifting back now because
Yeah,
I think coming out of Mania last year, more people wanted to see Rock and Cody than they did Rock and Roman. And now I think we're getting back to a
which
point
is
where,
only because Cody went and won the Royal Rumble.
well, but Cody
But
was different. And I feel,
before,
and I hate to
before,
say this, but I feel the people are, and we've said this on the show, and it's so stupid and it pisses me off, but I
Mhm.
think people are already starting to turn on Cody a little bit.
I feel it too, and I don't like it. But before Cody won the Royal Rumble, people were all for Rock and Roman. That's what they wanted. When Rock made that promo where he said, "Should the Rock sit at the bar? Should the Rock sit on the table? Should the Rock sit at the head of the table?" People ate that shit up.
Yeah. But then it came
The
time to
the
make the
minute
choice.
the minute Cody won the Royal Rumble, everything changed.
You
Because
know
now
what?
it's like
I don't
now because
agree either. I think it was before that. I think the
I
people were so ready for Cody to finish his story that they didn't you could have put anybody in that spot. I think they would have chose Cody.
but what I mean is once he won the Royal Rumble and it was a reality, okay, he's going to do it. He's going to do it now. And then The Rock is in the picture and they're like, no,
Well,
this is
okay.
not.
So leading up to the Rumble that year, and because this was before The Rock came back. The Rock came back like a week or two after the Rumble, right? I think
Mhm.
2 weeks after the Rumble.
Yeah.
Was there any doubt in your mind from the main event of the last WrestleMania up until the moment that The Rock came
No,
onto your screen that it was going to be Roman and Cody again?
no, not until Rock came back. No.
So we were all waiting for this match. We were all invested in this story. Like
But I
the people
but
were going
we
to choose Cody no matter what. I don't think
but
him winning the Rumble had anything to do with it.
Devil's Advocate,
I
we've been
think we
waiting
all wanted Cody.
but Devil's Advocate, we've been waiting 4 years for Rock Roman.
Have we though? Like it's been
Yeah.
I just think that at that point Cody was a bigger
Pretty much
story.
pretty much since the beginning of the head of the table gimmick, people wanted to see The Rock come in, and as soon as that tease was there,
Timing is everything though.
timing is everything. And now we're at a spot where it can happen, and it needs to happen. I think if it doesn't happen at 41, they can't do it after that. They can't. It's now or never, and I think it has to happen. This is the
So
best time for it to happen. This could be. We're. I say this every year. This could be the building of an all-time great WrestleMania because you have all the pieces that are coming together with some of the best workers, and to have Rock and Roman
well, and don't
in the
forget,
middle of it.
you know who else was teased and wanted to be a part of WrestleMania this year? Stone Cold Steve Austin as well.
All right.
Which is great. Another I don't need to see him have a match, but
Yeah,
to have him involved in WrestleMania elevates it even bigger too.
sure. I don't know what I want to see him do. There's only one person. If he was ever going to work, there's only one person I want to see him work with, and I don't know.
Who is that for you? Is it Punk?
It's Punk
Yeah.
because it's that match that was teased. It was like we kept getting these teases back in the day. First it was Hogan and Austin, and we never got it.
Yeah,
And it's like
I'm not losing
it's
any sleep
and
over that
and
one.
and then you let go of hope. You didn't care anymore. And then Hogan Austin turned into Punk Austin.
Well, they did that sit down interview for the video game.
Yeah. And then that didn't happen. So all years later, knowing what we know, seeing what we saw at WrestleMania 39, that Steve Austin can still kind of go, him and Punk doing something together is very
Well,
intriguing to
and
me.
like you talked about it with Punk earlier, psychology.
Mm-hmm.
You know that they would lay out a match that would be incredible.
And
I would
without a
what if you had Punk turn heel going into Mania and feud and have a match with Austin?
and there's a great spot, a great place to build this feud too. It's called a podcast.
Well, that's
You
what
know,
Vince Russo said we should have done with Kevin Owens on our
yeah,
show. I
yeah.
think you can do better than that. I think that Punk is so focused on main eventing WrestleMania
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't win the Rumble and I think he snaps. And I think Austin's the guy that you put him with. That would be amazing.
Now, I love this idea at the same time. This is why it was my idea. I was thinking that maybe Punk should win the Royal Rumble because I think this is the time that you make Punk finally main event is WrestleMania.
Well, he could do it
It,
against
it
Austin.
it's I'm not a fan of that, but I just
Austin's
feel if Punk doesn't get it,
huge.
I feel if Punk doesn't get his main event this year, every
Yeah,
year it doesn't. You know, I think
yeah.
it has to be this year.
I mean, it's gonna be hard though because you've already got Cody and you've already got Rock and Roman.
Well, that's what I'm
The
thinking. That's why I've always been thinking Punk Cody, Punk Cody on one night, or Punk Gunther on one night.
you got to turn one of them heel. Punk or Cody. You can't have them both babyface. I don't think it works.
Here's the other question, and we can talk about this in a few months when we get closer. We're going to talk about this, and we won't take up too much more time today on it. But just a quick off your head question: does Rock Roman, since there won't be a title involved, does it need to main event one of the nights?
It's hard not to.
It's really
It's
hard not to.
it's hard not to have the main event it, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. To me, just off the top of my head, if I'm booking a WrestleMania card, I want Cody and Randy. I want Rock Roman. I want the
hmm
Usos against Guerrillas of Destiny.
hmm
I want give me ooh, I kind of want Punk and Austin now. But
Right?
I would be happy with Punk and Gunter as well. Or
Pumpkin Gunter.
and then I don't know, like then you got
Even
guys.
Pumpkin Seth. People are talking Pumpkin Seth. I'd
Yeah,
be happy
Punk
with
and Seth
that.
would be great
Yeah.
too. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm excited. Wrestling's amazing right now.
Fantastic. I had a lot of fun with this list. I was scared to do this list
It's
because
because you're scared of big men.
I am scared of big men. There are a lot of great big men in the industry, and it's hard to wrangle them down to seven. But
Well,
I'm really happy with the way my list was.
what's the criteria for this list? Because
Okay,
this is going to determine how I view your order.
okay. So number one, straight off, is size. I had to decide what makes a giant, what makes a so-called big man, because I've seen other lists that have Scott Hall or Hulk Hogan on the list, and I said, well, to me, I don't think of Scott Hall as one of the big men. Then I look at him like, motherfucker stands at 6'7".
Billy
He's
Billy
not a
Gunn as
small
well.
guy.
Billy Gunn is one of the biggest human beings I've ever seen in my entire life, but you don't think of him as a big man.
So I had to think, okay, I need to make limits. How tall do you have to be? How much do you need to weigh? For my criteria, you don't need to be both. You need to be one or the other. You either need to be 6'9" or taller, or you need to be 350 pounds or heavier. So that's where I put my limit.
All right.
So anybody that's 6'8" or 349 pounds, sorry, buds. And there's a couple of guys that just didn't make it. But yeah, you're out.
What else? Is that the only criteria for your list?
Absolutely not. Ring, I hate this term, work rate, or in ring attributes definitely play in the order. However, there are more things that are going to come that are more important. Spectacle, draw, just pure, like this goes again to draw. Just look at you. Look at this. Like, people want to watch you because you're so big. That plays a lot for me. If you have that and you can work, well, you're going to work your way up to number one. But spectacle has a lot to do with it, because let's be honest. If you're going to go, I'm going to pick a guy that's not on my list. Spoiler alert. Let's pick the Great Khali. Okay? Why was Great Khali ever put in WWE? Was it for his work rate? Was it for his great hurricanranas and moonsaults and fantastic matches?
As far as kissing abilities, he's
It's
a
for his
Punjabi
kissing
playboy,
abilities.
buddy.
When you bring in somebody like the Great Khali, you're looking at him going, "Oh my God, he's huge." And it does make people want to watch. What can he do? What will he do? And then in time, you make your decisions on how you feel about him as a wrestler. But nobody, you can say what you want about Great Khali, especially as a champion, but nobody can tell me that Khali at one point wasn't a draw.
100%.
Khali, damn right, was a draw. You know who else was a draw? Giant Gonzalez.
Yeah,
Could
to
the
a
guy
lesser extent, I would say, but yeah.
could the guy work? Absolutely not. Go watch Undertaker's podcast. He'll tell all about it.
Well, you know the story with
But he was a
Gonzalez,
draw.
right? You know how he got into the business, right?
Not exactly,
So Ted Turner owns Atlanta, basically,
Mm,
right?
mhm.
And the Atlanta Hawks, I believe, is their basketball name. They drafted this guy out of Argentina, Chine Gonzalez is who it was, and he
Mhm.
was awful at basketball. So Turner's like, well, I got to get my money's worth out of this guy, so he made him a wrestler. That's how he became a wrestler.
One last piece of criteria is basically legacy. What did you leave in WWE? What did you leave in pro wrestling? When people say your name, are they just thinking, oh, it's like, oh yeah, he was a big dude? Or are they thinking excuse me, that was a big dude that left a mark on professional wrestling? Like he wasn't just there. I remember that guy. That has a lot to do with this.
I am super excited to get to talking about the oddities. So let's get to this. Number seven, oddities.
The Giant Silva.
Two. The oddities had two
The
giants and a big man.
Giant Silva, Golga. Who else did they have? They had
Kurgan.
Kurgan. Thank you. Yeah.
So the oddities.
And
Greatest.
the giant ego of Don Callis.
Yeah, there you go. And the
Love me some
ICP.
John Callis and the ICP. My number seven is a former world champion. And I don't when doing my research, he didn't make anybody else's top 10 lists, but he's on my number seven because I think he did leave a mark on the wrestling business as a champion, as a performer, probably one of the most improved performers over his 15-20 year career. And only one of like two people in WWE could actually say that he was the world's strongest man. I'm talking Mark Henry today.
I don't have a problem with him making your list.
Um, I was gonna play a little game. I'm gonna play it from 6 to 1 because I forgot to do it with Mark Henry. But from now on, until before I say the name, I'm gonna give the height and the weight and see if you can guess.
Well, that's gonna be hard. Like they're all big guys.
Mark Henry stands.
I need at least one stat.
Okay,
Like
well let's do it the opposite. Mark Henry, where do you think he stands?
I'd say he's like 6'6".
Mark Henry, 6'4", 360 pounds.
Not bad.
It's hard to believe that Mark Henry only stands 2 feet taller than I do, but the man is a beast. He is, like his moniker says, he's the world's strongest man. Look at the stuff he's been able to do in the ring, outside of the ring, and he's so intimidated. When they started calling him the silverback gorilla, it was like, yeah, because what is a gorilla? A gorilla is a beast that can rip you in half. And when I look at Mark Henry, that's what I think. I think of a man who could literally just rip me into two pieces. He is pure strength, that man.
He he's a person that really found himself a lot later. Like I'm
Mhm.
surprised, and when I say this, I don't mean it as like any disrespect to Mark but it just took him time to get going. It took him time to find the right character that
He,
fit
had,
him.
he and he had to take a couple trips back to developmental. He this very famous story, but he just wasn't getting there. He got sent back to Canada.
Well,
And
The Olympic gimmick wasn't very good,
yeah,
and his nation role was good for what it was.
for what it was, but he was
Then
never
he
going to get
got
over.
well, then he got into
Sexual
all the
chocolate
comedy
was
stuff.
huge for him.
It, yeah, but was it the best thing for him to help
No,
him? No.
no.
The Mae Young stuff.
But
And then
after all that,
but it took him a
the
long time though to get over that so people would take him seriously.
the fact that he was able to come back from that and still have another career,
Hmm.
he's a whole other gimmick.
Well, because
The the Go ahead.
there's a lot of stop start with him because of injuries
A
too,
lot,
right? Because they
yeah.
started trying to book him really strong again with Teddy Long, in like '05 or around that area, and then
Mhm.
he had the match with Taker at WrestleMania 22. But like he really like it was even still a few years after that until he really, really picked up the steam.
And again, Hall of Famer and damn right deservedly Hall of Famer.
All
Former
right.
champion. And yeah, I thought he was a pretty solid champion. And let's be honest, one of my favorite angles of all time was him and John Cena in the salmon color jacket.
Yeah, it's a huge
That
moment.
that retirement speech was fantastic. That was so good.
All right, well, I don't have a problem with this. Let's see what else you got on your list. Let's see what you don't have on your list before I can make any judgments.
My number six is a man who's doesn't stand any taller than Mark Henry at 6'4". He's only a little bit bigger than Mark Henry at 390 pounds, but he's a man that could move in a way that Mark Henry never could. I've never seen a man his size do a cartwheel like this, baby. And we're talking about the beast from the East, Mr. Bam Bam Bigelow.
All right.
You don't look sold.
I don't know yet because I think Bam Bam's incredible and he is one of the smoothest big men in the business.
Mm-hmm.
And I think from an in-ring standpoint, he definitely meets the criteria that you would want. And I think, his look was impressive. I just need to look at the accolades of people that might not be on your list compared to
Sure.
Bam Bam's to see what the lasting impression mark would be. I might have had Bam Bam in another number seven spot. Like it's not like I wouldn't have him on my
Do
list per
you
se. I just need to kind of see what else is going on and off your list.
do you know what one of the things that really helps me put him on my list, especially in the number six spot? When you have guys like Bret Hart, hailed as one of the greatest of all time. When you have guys like that calling him the greatest big man ever,
Oh yeah, he
that
had
that has to hold some stock.
respect of his peers was huge. He
Huge.
definitely had the respect of his peers.
Anybody who didn't listen, he was limited in WWE because it's what WWE does. They tell you what to do. You want to see what he could do? Go watch his ECW stuff.
Oh,
Like
great run in ECW. It's
he had a
great
great run in
He
ECW.
had
His
a great
stuff with
run
Taz
everywhere he
was
went.
great. Yeah,
WCW, he had Japan.
he was a very feared heel. He is some of his rivalries are just legendary. He knew how to get a babyface over. He was great at his job, and I
Main
stand by him being on this list.
main evented WrestleMania.
Yeah,
He main evented it.
yeah, I
And that was a
know.
great angle leading up to it. It got a lot of
Mm,
buzz, especially for a down
it
period of
did.
the business, right? Again, I don't have an issue with him being on the list. I just need a wait and see approach to see maybe if there's somebody not on the list that might have left a little bit of a bigger impact.
All right. By the way, there is a big, big name not on this list, and I'm ready for the heat. I'm ready for the hate,
You ready for the C
and
word?
I don't think I don't think the hate's coming from you.
Oh, we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, maybe it is. My number five stands a little taller than the last two. This guy stands at 7 foot even, 323 pounds. And don't tell me he didn't make a splash in the WWE, especially when he made his debut at Bad Blood, which just passed. We are talking, of course, about the big red machine, Kane.
I don't have a problem with him being on your list. I just don't like Kane. I've just never been a Kane fan. And that
If I'm going to be honest with you, Kane almost didn't. There was a couple names that are huge, that are big names. Kane being one that almost didn't make my list because I'm just like, but he's not my favorite. But when you put the criteria together and he
yeah,
starts checking every box, you don't have a choice, right?
I get it. I get it. I
I can
can't.
justify leaving a certain name off because of the criteria. I can't justify leaving Kane off just because you want to talk about work rate and in-ring work. He's had some great matches. He has. You want to talk about spectacle and draw. Man, that original Kane character, I like how he's redefined his character over the years. He's done a great job at that, just like The Undertaker. But when he came in and we had months and months and months of Paul Bearer talking about Kane, and we didn't know what he was going to look like, who he was going to be, what he was going to be. And he shows up, and then we get what we get. And every week he comes out and destroys probably a Hardy Boy, but he comes out and he destroys a jobber every single week, and he looked intimidating. The
Yeah.
fire, everything.
97 Kane
He
was
was a
awesome.
massive draw in '97.
Absolutely massive. It was a great angle, and I did enjoy that part. I just never was a fan of Kane's in ring work, and to each their own. That's just my take on it. I'm not saying he was terrible in the ring by any means. It just wasn't
He's
my
not making
thing.
any. Yeah, he's not making
I
any top 10
also
lists for me.
I wasn't a Taker guy back then either. So I was just not into that whole thing.
Sure.
I didn't become a Taker guy until about WrestleMania 21.
Really? That's
Except
interesting
for
to
his
me.
initial run. I really liked initial Undertaker run up until about 93 or 4. That's when I fell out of Taker.
Do you want to know when I became an Undertaker fan?
What's that?
Whose side are you on? Right there. When he turned on Jake,
Yeah, I
even
did
though I loved Jake, I was a Taker guy right there and then all through.
I fell off the Taker train about 95. I was like, yeah, I'm
That
because
was,
I just
that was fun Taker stuff.
I just was more of a fan of the Bret Harts of the world. Like that's more my
Hmm.
thing. Taker, the
Makes
dark
sense.
side stuff. I wasn't a big
Sure.
fan of it. I
And
didn't like the
I
mixes.
always loved the gimmicky stuff. So
Yeah,
that
and
makes
that's
sense. Yeah.
it. Just wasn't my thing, and Kane wasn't my thing. And then when Taker came back and did like that hybrid Taker, like a mix of like UFC Dead Man, I was like, I'm
Yeah.
into this. And his in
Okay.
ring was incredible. But I really did like early Taker stuff as well.
Well, my number four is a man I do know you're a fan of. And I do know you're a fan of his body of work because he has had some of the greatest matches, some of the greatest stories, and title runs in history. We are talking about a former world heavyweight champion in the 6'5", 450 pounds mastodon, Big Van Vader.
What number is this? 4?
Number four.
Hmm.
Ooh,
He's in my top 3, I think.
okay.
Maybe even my top 2. I don't know.
He was originally my number two. Or sorry, my number three. He was originally my number three. My three and four were interchangeable, and I decided to stick to where I am. But nobody can take anything away from Vader. Vader,
Yeah,
oh
maybe number
man,
3. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think maybe number 3 is where I would put him. I think from an in-ring standpoint, I think Vader might be the best or one of the best big guys to watch. I'm not saying how great
yeah.
how not snug he is. Like he might not be on the top of Bret Hart's list of smoothness, but I mean, an overall
or
presentation,
or
Vader
or
was
or Shawn Michaels list for
well,
that
I
matter.
mean, Vader was terrifying though, and I think that if his run in the WWF was stronger, I think he'd make a case to be number 1.
And I'm not going to argue with you there because that's one of my points here. I didn't. I wasn't really introduced to Vader until 1996. I didn't watch a whole lot of WCW prior. I watched some and I knew who Vader was, but I didn't watch his matches. I didn't know what Vader really could be until, when, and then I saw him come in 1996 and feuded with Shawn and did this whole thing. And I liked Vader. I was a big fan of what I was seeing. A couple years later, I finally went back and watched matches and saw what the master, or what Big Van Vader was. You know what I mean? Right from the awesome headgear with the mist coming out, and Harley Race doing a tremendous job as a
Hmm.
manager. There were so many key elements in WCW that WWE just didn't pick up on
Yeah, and
in WCW.
then if you want to take it
No, no, I don't want to take anything away from Jimmy Cornette. Jim Cornette did what he could do with Vader, but he wasn't Harley Race.
no,
You know?
and you want to take it a step further, then you take a look at his run in Japan,
Mm,
and that right there puts him on your list without anything
100%.
else. Like
Yeah, his stuff with
he's
Stan Hansen is, yeah,
oh everybody,
yeah.
yeah, he had a huge run in Japan. He was dominant everywhere he went, and yeah, he's in the top 3 for me. It's just tough because like we'll get into it when we get to your top 3 because
Yeah, so I already know you're not going to like my top three, and that's okay. You're going to hate my number one, and that's okay. My number three, again, this could have been switched with Vader, but I'm going to stick with it because I think very much like Bam Bam Bigelow, he's one of those guys that should never have been able to do what he did in the ring. Not at his size. He was one of the most agile, unique characters we ever saw in WWF. And once again, he's a former champion. This man stood at 6'4", and at one time weighed in just shy of 600 pounds. And we are talking about Yokozuna.
yeah, I mean, I would definitely have Vader ahead of Yokozuna just for
Really?
longevity. 100% for
Okay.
match quality and longevity and money drawn for all of the above.
Sure.
I think Vader is
I
much.
I
Yoko's
just
on my list.
I almost feel
Yokozuna
like
is on my list though.
I feel like Yoko did more for a struggling company in a short time than Vader did for a thriving company in a long time. Does that make
See,
sense?
I don't agree with it at
Okay.
all. I think Yoko was perfect for what he was at that time period,
Hmm.
but Vader's longevity was and the money that he drew in Japan and WCW and his first year in the WWF was really good as well. Yoko's run wasn't that long, 92 to 96.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much all he did. Like,
I just think, and again, maybe I made the wrong choice of where they were. One was always going to be three, and one was always going to be four.
I
This
don't
was
even
always
know
the
if
way
I'd,
it was going
I
on
would
my
think,
list.
I think I would have Yoko at the topper part of my big man list.
Really?
And not because like, his in
I'm not putting him out of at least the four spot, just
I
because
would maybe
when I sit
even
down and watch Yokozuna matches, I'm enthralled. I
well,
love Yoko matches.
it depends on what era of Yoko matches you're watching though.
Of course. It's really hard to
90
watch him near the end.
92 93
Yeah,
94 and halfway through 95. Yeah. But
yeah,
after that,
sure. So 1 year of his career kind of sucked,
I
but
mean, 95, you can thank a lot of that to Owen Hart.
well, and I was going to bring that up. The WWE noticed his downfalls, what he couldn't do by that time. This is the heaviest he's ever weighed in his career. What do you do with him? You put him with one of the best in the world, and you make him look better by proxy.
That was a
And
great
that's
tag team.
exactly what happened there. I love that tag team. I've turned my son into a huge Owen and Yoko fan.
Yeah, they're great.
He asked me for more matches by those guys. They were a great tag team. I don't think they get enough credit.
No, and it's just because there was not a lot of people to work with at that point in the tag
Mm-hmm.
team division. It was a really weak tag team division, right? But
It was.
I have no problem with Yoko being on your list. I don't for me personally, he wouldn't be that high up on my list. He'd be up in the like 7, 6, 5 spot somewhere in there.
Okay.
But I think he should be on the list. Absolutely. He had a great run as champion. His in-ring work is phenomenal, especially for a man of that size. He was over big time. It's just longevity, money drawn, all that stuff. Like he only meets one of the requirements of your criteria for me.
Okay.
And just for
No,
that reason
I'll
alone,
argue with you.
that's where Vader leapfrogs a lot of people for me because of the
Sure.
longevity and the money drawn.
Speaking of money drawn, speaking of, I used that word spectacle earlier. I don't think there was ever a bigger spectacle than Andre the Giant.
I think he's the right call for number 2.
I don't think, all these years later, Andre's been gone from us for over 30 years. And we still talk about Andre as the man who helped hold up WWF in the 80s and in the early, he was that guy that you wanted everybody to go up against. You had a babyface you needed to build, they needed to go through Andre first. Andre was that spectacle.
Well, and it was the other way around too for the whole 80s when he was or the 70s when he was a face, and if you had a heel you wanted to build, you put him against Andre.
Exactly. Andre stood at 7'4" and weighed 520 pounds at one point in his career. Andre, by the time we really got him as WWF fans, Andre was already done.
Yeah, Andre was done before WrestleMania 3.
And we didn't realize that, when because the age we were and the fact that we really only watched that one company, that's all we knew about Andre. So imagine that. Imagine seeing this spectacle, the greatest thing you've ever seen, and that's the end of his career. Holy crap.
Well,
and you want to talk about work rate? We didn't get his work rate in WWF. We didn't. We weren't able to. Go look at the stuff he did in Japan. Go look at the stuff he did in the way back in WCW.
it was good. Andre was no slouch in the ring.
I mean, he wasn't Yokozuna. He wasn't Viscera doing fucking spin kicks and stuff. But he was good.
Yeah.
At one point he was good. And most importantly, I don't think there's any more respected man in the WWE locker room other than maybe The Undertaker.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
You know what I mean?
Man.
He was the boss. And he didn't need, I was going to say he demanded that respect, but he didn't need to demand that respect. He just got it. And if he didn't get it, well, you got fucked in the ring.
I have a bit of an unpopular opinion about Andre the Giant,
Mhm.
and it's just like he is what he is because of the era that he was in. Because he's not
Oh, 100%.
right.
100%. The way fans are today, they would never accept an Andre the Giant. They
No,
wouldn't.
it wouldn't work today. But because he was so special and because he was booked so smart, absolutely, I think Andre Giant should be number two on this list. I don't
Mhm.
have a problem with it at all. There are so many other better big men than Andre, but they don't meet that criteria either. Like
But
even, but
one of the
Andre was special, 100%.
Andre was special. I don't think I could put him anywhere but the number two. I think my number one is only my number one because he hits every single piece of criteria, doesn't miss a beat, doesn't miss anything. Andre, Andre was a spectacle. Andre was the draw. And he hit that one piece of criteria so fucking hard that it is implanted into our memories. That's why he's my number two.
Hmm. And then I think number one is pretty obvious, right?
My number one, go through that entire criteria list, and there's nothing he doesn't hit. Standing 6'10, 309 pounds. There's nobody better than The Undertaker.
I agree. This is a shoe-in.
Nobody.
This is a shoe-in for number one. So I'm going to assume then, because we don't need to talk about Taker. We know, right?
Ever. If you don't know Undertaker,
You're on. You've
go sit
accidentally
under the learning tree, as he would say, and go learn some
you've
stuff.
accidentally stumbled across the wrong
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what I'm assuming is your big omission. It's the Big Show, right? Is that who you're
Yes.
talking about?
Yes, sir. I know I'm going to get heat from the listeners. I have a feeling I'm not going to get heat from you.
He makes my list.
Does he?
100% he does.
To me, not again. If we were a top 10 show, yeah. Top 7, I'm putting Bam Bam and Mark Henry over Paul Wade every day.
I got Big Show over both of them and Yoko.
Really?
Yeah, and again,
Okay.
because I'm going if
I
we're
want to
going by your
discuss that.
if we're going by your criteria,
And this is why. I don't think he left a mark in wrestling. This is just me. I know my now Paul White is my Kane to you.
that's fair.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan either. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a like the big guys were
I
never my
look
draw.
I look at his career, and there's nothing that I feel left a giant mark in professional wrestling. He came in, he only got pushed as big as he did in WCW because of how he looked. He
Well,
came
you
in, he
could say
couldn't
that by
couldn't
about a lot of people on this
true,
list, though, man.
true. Came in, couldn't work with shit. But a lot of these guys learned, and they learned somewhat quickly. Taker, Big Show, by the time he gets to WWE, he still can't work.
Yeah, but he's only
And
been in the business for 3 years, 4 years.
why can't you work?
4 years is not a long time to learn how to work, man.
You were expected to lead a
At that
company. You were the
level,
champion of a
at
fucking company.
well, that's
No,
bad. That's stupid booking, though. That's
true.
not his fault.
I
Like
don't know, man.
his first match ever was not ever, but I'm like his one of his very first matches ever was against Hogan at Halloween Havoc.
Yeah,
And that actually might be his first match, like in front of people.
I think it was.
Right? So I mean, if you look at where he is there, so that's 1995, and he jumps to the WWF at the beginning of 1999. So he's 3 years in the
Okay.
business
So here's
at
my
that
question
point.
for you. When was Big Show ever a draw?
A draw?
Yeah.
I think he's
Did
as much of a draw as Kane ever was.
See, I don't agree with that. I think they at least put Kane into storylines that people wanted to watch.
Same with Big
Um,
Show.
I can't think of one. Like he did some entertaining things. I love the stuff he did with Boss Man. I love the stuff, you know what I mean? But he did some entertaining things. But
Well, outside of Kane's storyline with Taker at the beginning, I don't think there's much difference.
I'm going to disagree with that. But also Kane's work rate brings him up quite a bit.
I
Show
don't.
never did it for me in the ring.
I think they've had just as many good matches.
Okay, we're going to agree
My
to
opinion.
disagree on that one for sure.
My opinion on that. But again, we're at a stalemate there because we view them the same, just flipped, right?
Yeah,
I have him on my list over Mark Henry and over Bam Bam. I also, and
Do you put him over Kane? Because I know you're not a Kane fan.
I think you could just interchangeable at that point. I think they're the same, in all honesty.
If this was your list, you're putting Big Show around the number 4 spot.
I'd probably have him at 5 or 6, somewhere in
Wow.
there. I'd probably
Okay.
have Kane up there. I would, I'll catch heat for this one, but Kevin Nash is making my list.
I gave thought to Kevin Nash. I just think the rest of these guys did much better. Kevin Nash, here's my problem, and not my problem. Here's my mistake. I'll admit to it a mistake. When I was thinking about Kevin Nash, I was thinking about Diesel.
Mm.
And I don't think I gave enough credit to his draw power in WCW. I didn't give enough credit to the things he did with the NWO and with Scott Hall and with Hulk Hogan. Had I given more credit to that, then possibly he may have at least hit the 7 mark. But in my mind, I was thinking more Diesel, and Diesel didn't draw in WWE.
No, but he was
You know,
champion for a year. He's a Hall of Famer, and he changed the
yeah.
business with the NWO. I think the NWO run alone puts him on the list.
I'm
Not to mention what he did for the backstage of the business
I'm
and
not
all the
I'm not,
guaranteed contracts. That's a
I'm
different
not sure
story.
I'd be willing to kick Mark Henry off my list for Kevin
Uh,
Nash. But
the other one I want to ask you about is Psycho Sid.
again, I wanted him. Like, he was one of the first people I thought of when I thought of this list. I just liked these other 7 better.
Bam Bam's a way better worker than Sid, but I think Sid leaves a bigger impression than Bam Bam.
I think I have these rose-colored glasses on my face because of how many people. I think it's the respect factor. How many people who have worked with Bam Bam will come out and say he's the best big man ever.
Yeah,
Taker has said it.
all from
Bret
an in.
Hart has said it. So many people have said it, and that's probably why Yoko is my number 3 too, from the respect factor. Um, if I took that away,
Well, because
maybe
you didn't
that
even
frees up
mention
rooms.
that in your criteria
No, I
either.
didn't. No, I didn't. Yeah.
I've got a deep cut honorable mention that I'd like to just shine a bit of light to, and that's Crusher
Mhm.
Jerry Blackwell.
You
That guy
mean
was up.
Jerry Blackwell standing at 5'9", 474 pounds. I have got all my honorable mentions written down with their with weights and heights. I'm ready to go, baby.
I think he would, if I was making a top 10 list, I
Yeah.
think he would sneak onto my top 10.
Really? Okay. Great.
He
He was
grossly
he was definitely a draw in that era.
100% he was.
Him and Haystack Calhoun.
Yeah,
Um,
Haystack's not making my list.
I don't know if he's making my list, but you want to talk about draws of the era, draws
Yeah,
of their
he's
time? Haystack's in
Haystack.
there, man.
Well, Haystack was a draw because he's the fattest man ever. Like, he's huge.
601 pounds. Now say that
Jerry Blackwell
he
could
is,
work.
with that said, Jerry Jerry or what's his name? Calhoun, sorry, only had 11 pounds on Yokozuna and they were the same height.
Yeah, I mean, big difference between the two. Yokozuna,
Yeah,
but I mean, neither one of them could really move by that point. But
well, true enough.
Jerry Blackwell for me, he wouldn't make my list, but I just wanted to shine a bit of light on him. Yeah,
I got
I would have to put strong consideration for Sid, for
okay,
Nash, and
sure.
for Big Show on my list. I don't know if they're all going to make it, but I would really have a hard time leaving those guys off the list as well.
Well, I do have a couple honorable mentions. I've got the big cat Ernie Ladd
Yeah.
standing at 6'9", 320.
And that one for me is just before my time, so that's my ignorance on Ernie Ladd.
Well, speaking of before your time, this guy was of your time, just not in wrestling, and that's Gorilla Monsoon.
Will you stop?
6'7", 401 pounds. The man was a beast of his era.
I'm
He
gonna have you
really
thrown
was.
out of here, Brain. I'm telling you.
We joked about Golga before, but Earthquake is one of the greatest big men of all time, and I'll stand by that.
If he would have had a longer run on top, other than just that run with Hogan, yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard not to put him on the list.
Let's throw some love to Rikishi.
Yeah.
It wasn't that tall, but he was 425 pounds.
Like, that's crazy because
Big
I just
boy,
picture like head shrinker Rikishi, like
right?
not.
Um, and then I gotta throw some love to Umaga. Umaga
100%.
just made it in there at the 350-pound mark. Stood 6'4", but he was 350 pounds.
See, another guy that would be a great honorable mention, but he got too skinny was the Big Boss Man.
So Big Boss Man couldn't make my list. I have him at uh I I wrote down the weight wrong.
Well, he was well
Oh no,
over,
where is it here? I have Boss Man. He's 6'7", but he's only 330.
but he
So
was he was over 400 pounds at one point. He
oh, was he?
lost. He got super skinny
Mm.
in the 90s. Yeah,
By the way, something I wanted to mention. I wrote this down. I forgot about this when we were talking about the Big Show. Remember Headbanger Thrasher?
I do.
Do you know he was one of the two people to train the Big Show?
No kidding, eh?
No kidding.
He's on my list of people I want to reach out to get on the show.
Me,
Actually,
me too. It'd be fun. Let's talk about Big John Studd.
yeah.
You want to talk about draws? Let's talk about draws because Mr. King Kong Bundy was a fucking draw in his day.
King Kong
Love
Bundy,
me some Bundy.
one man gang.
One Man Gang was a big boy. Not on my list, but so I don't have his height and weight, but he was a big guy. You want to talk about draws? Maybe not here in Canada, maybe not in the United States, but in Japan it doesn't get bigger than the Giant Baba.
I mean, you got to consider putting him on your list too, with all he did
I
for the
did.
business.
I did consider because of his the respect factor, the spectacle factor, the leaving a mark factor.
He could
I
go.
really
He could
did think
go in the
about it.
ring. He could go
Yeah.
in the ring too. He's like Andre, and I like that him and Andre ended their careers together in a tag team.
Abdullah the Butcher at one point in time weighed over 600 pounds. I can't believe that.
Well,
Or no, sorry, I have that written down. My 360 pounds.
he's another guy that you want to talk about. He might not be having 5-star classics in the ring, but that guy was a huge draw for a long
Damn
time.
right, damn
I
right.
I also would put strong consideration to having him make my list for that as well.
And my last honorable mention, just because he's so fun and I love him, and there's never a you can't have a bad time watching a Kamala match.
I love me some Kamala as well. Yeah,
But
I mean,
that's my list, man.
didn't hate as much as you hyped up that I would.
I I didn't think you were going to hate my list. I thought you were going to hate the exclusion of the Big Show, which obviously you did.
I wouldn't say I hated it.
Yeah.
I just think that I don't I love me some Mark Henry. I just don't think he's making my list.
Mm-hmm.
Bam Bam is in that mix for the number 7 spot.
So you're gonna pull Mark Henry. Well, you got to pull three people because you want Sid, you want Kev Nash,
Well,
and you want Big
they're
Show.
all in the mix.
Yeah.
I've got Sid Nash, Abdullah, and who am I missing? What's
Baba.
and Baba? Yeah, I mean that number 7 spot's crowded,
It's hard.
right?
It's hard, man. It's really hard.
7 and 6, right? Because Bam Bam and Yoko are also in the mix for me in that as well, right? They're
Yeah.
all like, to me, the only 3 that are locked on my list is Taker,
Mhm.
Andre, and Vader. They are locked and loaded as my top 3.
Yeah.
And after that, man, you could just catch me on the right day and the right time, and that would change every day of the week. That's how hard
Yeah.
that list is. It's a hard list, man.
I got you, bud.
Hard list. And that's it.
Well, if you like this list and you missed last week's list, you know what you can do? You can go to countitout7.com. You got your link for Spotify there. You got your link to Apple Music right there. You got your link to YouTube right there. Hit them all, listen to them all, hit those like buttons, do it, love it. All our interviews are there. It's all right there. And as of this recording, you'll be able to get a link straight to Barry Wrestling Rush Hour.
Yeah, every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Thank you to everybody who's tuned in so far. Means a
that
lot.
features our one and only TCO.
Yeah, I got a little segment on there.
Yeah, a little and a little ring announce in action.
Yeah, that's true. I host the Barry Wrestling Event Center on there.
Ooh, look at you.
Yeah, it's going to be good. This is a fun week this week. You want to see some really good in-ring action, this is the week to watch it.
We're going to start calling him Lord Tyler Wolf.
Oh, that would be amazing if I could be a lordship. I only turn into Lord Tyler Wolf during the Wild Rovers matches in Barry Wrestling when I get the terrible English accents from out of nowhere.
That's amazing. Lord Alfred Hayes would come from the grave just to smack you when he hears that accent.
And I would be proudly deserving of
it. We should. I'm gonna do some sort of list to get Alfred Hayes on the list. Backstage interviewers. I don't know.
Let's do top 7 Lord Alfred Hayes moments.
I would love it. And then follow it with top 7 Gene Okerlund moments, because why not?
Good luck. That's a hard one.
That's a hard one.
Those are both hard lists for drastically different reasons.
With that said, thanks again for listening, everybody. We'll be back next week. Please, it's a couple weeks away, but please, if you have a chance, look into coming WrestleFest, October 20th, Mississauga, Ontario. We will be there. Jimmy Corderas will be there. Kelly Kelly will be there. All the stars of Destiny Wrestling will be there. You can buy merch. You can do so many cool things. Lots of fun. If you're a wrestling fan, it's a convention for wrestling fans. Bring your deodorant. I love y'all. Until next week, you've been counted out.
Cheers. Old Spice.